All right, today we're going to be doing a supply and demand equilibrium cheat sheet. So up at the top, I want you to, in your, first of all, you're going to need a sheet of paper and 2 different colors. Up at the top, I want you to label it supply and demand equilibrium cheat sheet. And I want you to choose what colors are you going to use for increase and decrease. I'm going to use a pink color for increase and a blue color for decrease. Pause this video. Give yourself time to do that. All right. So let's write out how we are meant to solve supply and demand equilibrium problems. So this is kind of like your step-by-step, how do we do it? We first need to, first bullet point, note what is the market. Is the market for mouse pads? Is the market for Chromebooks? Is the market for lamps? Is the market for babysitters? Okay. Then we need to decide, is it a supply or demand issue? And the way we think that through is, who is it going to impact first? If it impacts the production of the good first, the producers, the people making it, supplying it, then it's a supply issue. If it impacts the consumers first and how we buy it, then it's a demand issue, okay? So we decide which curve, supply or demand, and which way. And always remind yourself, right is more and left is less. So if we're going to shift the curve to the right, that means there's an increase in supply or demand, or to the left would be a decrease in supply or demand. Okay, why does it shift? We're going to list one of the 6 reasons for supply or one of the 6 reasons for demand. We'll graph it and figure out what happens to price and quantity equilibrium. That's going to be an increase or decrease. And we write out that answer and graph it. So every single answer for all of these problems is going to look something like this. You choose supply or demand, increases or decreases due to change in, remember delta means change, 6 different reasons why it could change, 6 reasons for supply, 6 reasons for demand. And then when we graph it, what happens to price, increase or decrease, and what happens to quantity, increase or decrease. Every single problem will start looking like this. So pause this video and go ahead and write out the steps to solve the equation, what your answer will look like, and fill in this base graph for me. All right, so on this base graph, every single problem starts with the y-axis, which represents price, and the x-axis, which represents quantity. Upward sloping supply, supply reaches for the sky. Downward sloping demand, demand goes down in the dirt. Where supply and demand meet, this point is called equilibrium. Equilibrium determines with a dashed line what our price is, and with a dashed line what the quantity of the good is. And every single graph is going to start like that. So we're going to graph out all 4 possibilities. Supply increasing, supply decreasing, demand increasing, demand decreasing. And that's why I had you get 2 different colors, an increase and decrease color. So I need you, with the rest of your paper, there's going to be nothing else on the front, to fill out 4 big blank graphs that look like our base graph. So pause this video and fill that out. All right, so we're going to do changes in supply and then changes in demand first. So here we go. This first row is going to be supply, so I just wrote the word supply over here, and the second row is going to be demand, and so I wrote demand over here. So I think I chose pink as my increase color, so let me change my colors here, and blue as my decrease color. So let's get going. So I'm going to do this one as a supply increasing. So I'm going to put supply increases due to change in blank, and I would fill in that blank. Then what happens to price and what happens to quantity? So in this scenario, I'd be given a problem. I don't know, like workers become more productive. I don't know. You're given a problem and you have determined that the answer to the problem is supply increase. Now, how do we graph it? We take the whole supply line and move it out to the right. Right means more. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to take the whole supply line, move it out to the right. When I have a new line, I give it a new name, S1, and an arrow pointing from old to new, indicating the shift. We shifted it to the right because right is more. When that happens, hopefully you see that this supply line doesn't exist anymore. It's upward sloping supply, downward sloping demand. Use your fingers to trace it out if you need to, and find the point where they intersect. And that point is called equilibrium. From equilibrium, we go over with a dashed line, and that determines price, and it's a new price. It used to be price equilibrium, PE. Now it's price 1. And we go down with a dashed line, and that's our new quantity. It used to be quantity equilibrium. Now it is quantity 1 because it's the first new one. And what we're missing here is arrows indicating the shift. I got my colors backwards. I'll fix it in a minute. Sorry. You see that price went from here, this black line, down to this blue line. So I'm going to put a downward arrow. And I'm going to come over here and describe the graph as price went down. Okay? Then I see my quantity was here, but it shifted out to the right. Right means more. So that was actually an increase. I'm going to come down here to quantity and give it an arrow up. So when supply increases, price goes down and quantity increases. Okay? I'm going to fix this because Miss Keller messed it up. So actually blue is going to be my increase and red is going to be my decrease. Sorry about that. I just wasn't thinking. Okay, so that's an increase in supply. Let's decrease supply. So go over to this graph over here, and let's make this a decrease supply graph. So I'm going to go to supply decreases due to change in blank. And if you had a real practice problem, there would be a change. And then what's going to happen to price? What's going to happen to quantity? Let's figure out. So if we take the whole supply line and we decrease it, a decrease would be a shift to the left. We're going to shift the whole thing out to the left. When we give something a new line, it has to have a new name. So it used to be supply, now it's the first new supply, S1. And we give it an arrow pointing from old to new, indicating the shift. When we do that, this supply line no longer exists. And so we've got upward sloping supply, downward sloping demand. Where they intersect is called equilibrium. Put a dot on equilibrium. From that dot, go over, and that is our new price. A new price needs a new name. It's no longer price equilibrium, it's price 1. And we go down, and a new quantity needs a new name. It's no longer quantity equilibrium, it is quantity 1. Now I start comparing. This was my old price, here's my new price. It shifted up, so I can even come over here and describe the graph by saying price went up. Okay, this was my old quantity. This is my new quantity. It shifted to the left. Left is less, so I can come over here to quantity and describe it as lessening, decreasing. Okay, so that is an option if you think supply is decreasing. This is exactly what your graph will look like, and this is exactly how you will answer. And that's supply. All right, so let's take a look at demand. For demand, we're going to have increase and decrease color. I'm going to get them right this time. Let's do blue as an increase. Now, we want to take the whole demand curve and we want to increase demand. Okay? So let's take that whole line. D goes outwards because right is more and left is less, so we moved it out to the right. We give it a new name because it's a new demand curve, D1, and we give it an arrow showing the shift, pointing from old to new. Now, when we've done that, it's like this demand curve doesn't even exist anymore. So now we've got downward sloping demand, upward sloping supply, and a point where they intersect. That point where they intersect is called equilibrium. From there, we go over, and that's our new price, and we call it price 1 because this is the first new one. And we go down, and that's our new quantity, and we call it Q1 because it's a new one, okay? Now, we start to compare old price to new price. Here's price equilibrium. Here's the new price when demand increased. It went up. Here is quantity equilibrium. Here's the new quantity. It went up as well. And Miss Keller forgot to draw out what we're doing. This whole graph is supposed to be a demand increase due to change in, and you would fill in that change based on what the practice problem is saying. What happened to price? What happened to quantity? Well, take a look at your graph. Price went up. Quantity also went up. Okay? All right. Moving on. So let's do decrease. Here we go. So we're going to take the whole demand curve and we're going to decrease it. And decrease is left is less. But let's fill out how we would describe the graph first. If we're going to decide to decrease demand based on the practice problem, demand would go down due to, sorry about my handwriting, change in blank, and that would be one of those 6 reasons. Price does what? Quantity does what? So let's take that whole demand curve and shift it inward because left is less. So we take the whole curve, we shift it to the left, we give it a new name, D1, and an arrow indicating the shift, okay? Then we pretend as if this demand curve doesn't even exist anymore because we've moved demand inward. And now we have to find the new equilibrium. Demand goes down, supply goes up. There's the point. We put a point on equilibrium, follow that point over, and that's P1. And we go down, and that is Q1, okay? So old price to new price looks like it shifted down, and I can come down here and describe the graph that way. Old quantity to new quantity looks like it shifted to the left. Left is less, and I can come over here and describe it that way. And if you notice on all of these graphs, when there is a change in supply or demand, there are 3 new lines, a new supply curve, a new price curve, new price line, new quantity line, 3 new names, S1, Q1, P1, or demand if you're doing down here, and 3 arrows as well, 1, 2, 3. So you can always check yourself to see if you got it right by thinking 3 new lines, 3 new names, 3 arrows. And if you chose the right increase or decrease, if you get that, then this is going to come very easily. Okay, so here's what I want you to do. Flip to the back of this sheet of paper. We're going to have a little pop quiz. All right, and without looking, we've done this so much over the past few days. Without looking, I want you to create this chart, obviously. So pause, give yourself 6 bullet points for change in demand, 6 bullet points for change in supply. All right, unpause, and here we go. Without looking at your notes or other cheat sheets, try and think of as many of these as you can. And I don't know, the winner will get a smiley face sticker that I have up front or something like that. Okay, so pause this video. Fill in as many as you can remember of the 12. And let's see, unpause. Let's see if you're right. Sorry about my handwriting. I scribbled these down really quick. For changes in demand, a change in number of consumers, a change in income, change in taste or preference, change in the price of a substitute good, change in the price of a complementary good, or change in future or expected price. For changes in supply, what could change supply? Input costs going into the good, change in number of producers making the good, change in government policy, the government making it easier or harder to produce something, change in technology, change in human capital, which is training or education of our employees, and change in productivity, how fast or efficient we are. See how many you got right? Fill them in. I'd love for you to get all 12, of course.